Production management works in association with your inventory and sales modules. It allows you to plan and manage your production. The steps are definable by you, and it can begin with a sales plan. The sales plan can be built using a wizard based on prior sales or based on a prior sales plan. It can be broken out into any level of detail, such as by customer or by salesperson, and certainly by item. A production plan can be directly driven by existing sales orders by having a sales wizard import the information from the sales order for production. Either the sales plan or the sales orders can be imported to generate the production plan, or using the wizard it can actually again be generated based on a prior production plan. Once a production plan is generated, you can go into the details of the production plan. You can look at the various plans that you have out there and the details that are on those. You can select any detail. You can see what the quantity was as related to the original source, any adjustments that you have made to it, and then ultimately the plan that you have for that production. And this allows you then to, at your option, to simply go ahead and release to production the item that is selected, and it allows you to modify the quantity that goes into production. So this allows you, as you can see here, to actually say what inputs you're going to commit to that production at that particular point. And so I'll say yes, that's what I'm looking for, and I will simply accept it. The production unit is used to manage production, and what we'll do is to go into the production unit entry screen and look at the content of a production unit. So let's go ahead and find one, and let's sort by some order here, and I want to select let's say this one. We'll bring them all in so we can scroll if we need to. What this shows is the stages that the particular item, this production unit, is going to go through. So it's sowing, germination, repotting, green inventory, and so on, until we get down to the harvest. And into the harvest we can actually record what are the items that are going to be produced and what are the actual expected percentage output if there's more than one final output. Let's look at the plan. Let's start right here. Here we can see when this is going to start, what the expected quantities are, what the production period is, what the expected losses are, and so this allows us to begin with a certain quantity up here and end with a quantity down here based on the dates that are shown. And then we can track the stage that the production is in. So this allows us then to go through these various stages, and then below each one of these will be the activities. Every time we do something, we say what we have done, and it's this that allows us to generate the work orders. This also updates the inventory with the information on what is actually being produced. So this would allow us to say this is the final item, and in this case 100% of what is produced will be that item. We go back to the detail here. It also allows us to record any inputs that go into the item along with any capacity requirements that are defined for this. This allows us to plan the capacity requirements along with the input requirements, and in fact we can generate a requisition if that is what is desired. Within the production unit screen, I can spontaneously add additional production requirements if that is what is needed. So if I said I want this particular item, and I said I want, let's say, 12,000 of this, 12,000, I can say OK, and it will go ahead and generate the production unit with all the steps, showing me the input requirements and so on. And these input requirements relate to this particular step here, the sowing step. And of course these are all definable. These are your steps with the order in which they will happen in your operation. I can also view significant information from this particular screen that helps me in the management of my production. Within the production unit screen, I can spontaneously add additional production requirements if that is what is needed. So if I said I want this particular item, and I said I want, let's say, 12,000 of this, 12,000, I can say OK, and it will go ahead and generate the production unit with all the steps, showing me the input requirements and so on. And these input requirements relate to this particular step here, the sewing step. And of course these are all definable. These are your steps with the order in which they will happen in your operation. I can also view significant information from this particular screen that helps me in the management of my production. Production is broken into stages of production, and on each of these stages different activities can be performed. They can be simply one activity or they can be multiple activities. There are various management screens that are available to help you understand the status of your production. So if we go into one where it's based on the production unit, what we'll see is the individual production units listed here. So what I've done is I've sorted by the various items that exist, and I've said what are the production units under this item code. But I could have sorted by something else as well. So if I said I'd want it to look at by group, for example, I could put the group up here, or I could put the status with that group, and I could see those that are actually in production at this point. I could also look at the information on the stages of production. So this is a management screen showing me the different stages, and here I can say let's look at all the various stages that exist. And I found the records that I wanted to look at, and I said let's look at those that are in germination. We could see the activity on any of these. We could see, in addition, the inputs that have gone into these particular stages. We could also see the activity that is associated with the production, and this breaks it down into, again, the different, in this case, by the status of the activity. So if we're looking at those that are in progress, these are the in progress activities, and it lets us see exactly where we're at and what remains to be done. While production can be completely controlled and managed from the production unit level, while commonly it is based on creating work orders where different work is combined together to be performed in sequence or at the same time. There's a wizard that allows us to create the work orders and allows us to, let me bring this in, and let's say I want to look at the planned start date. I want to see what dates exist, and I say okay, I want to come down here for some particular date, so I'll select this one, and this allows me to see all of the work that has to be done today. Well, let's say I want to create that into a work order. I simply say yes, this is what I want to do. I say next. Do I want to auto generate the work order and the number? Yes, I do. Do I want to change any information that I want to give to the crew for this purpose? And it's looking for a description. So that means that I've set up that I need a description. Sewing operation, and that allows me then to create the activities associated with it, and here is the work order, and at this point I would be able to print a work order if that's what I wanted to do. So let's see if I want a barcoded work order, I might say this particular one, and it would then go off and print that particular work order for me, and allows me to see what is to be done and give this to the crew. And I would need to print this, and so it's going to show me a little bit more information than what I was showing you there. I can also see on my, let me close that one, I can also see the various work orders that are open by going to a management screen and looking at what is open there. And I have the option of looking at, when I do this, I have the option of looking at the activity associated with each of these screens and saying what materials were used, what output came from it, what did I add or subtract from production, and it allows me to enter significant information that helps me manage my production. And of course this will update the stage of the activity of the stage and also update the inventory information. Analyzing your data is often very, very important to understanding your production process. There are a whole series of different what we call production unit analyses that are available to you. So you can look at the production unit by stage and activity. You can see the inventory effect. And if I went into, for example, the inventory effect view here, we could see the different items that are in production. We could see the status of each of these production units with this item and the expected quantity associated with it. We could also generate at any point reports on this. So we could generate, for example, a report that allows us to see the information just as you see it here on the screen. So we can do that by coming down here to exporting, for example, to an Excel file, a PDF, or whatever else. Or we could actually bring this into a pivot grid where you define the columns and rows and the content of the data for your particular analysis. So if I said, I want to do it by the item here, and I want to do it by the inventory effect here, actually I really would want the inventory effect there with the quantity in here. So now I can begin to generate a pivot table that allows me then to better understand my business. So let me close this. We also have additional forms in here, additional views of the data that allows you to look at the capacity requirements, allows you to look at the input requirements, allows you to see how this compares, your production compares with the sales orders. And so there is that same ability to generate reports from the grid as well as to do pivot tables. We've just touched the surface of the production management module. Once we understand more about your operations, then we can set up the stages to match the order in which you do things and the rules by which you do it. And so we would actually set up stages and build that into various codes that describe your production process. And once they're defined, then they're there for all future use. So understanding how you grow and produce product and what inputs and what capacity requirements there are allows the system to function around your requirements. We would be very, very happy to discuss how this system can meet your needs. Thank you.